quadratic equations, which is solving problems based on the cliff divers and any other forms that we can use quadratic equations. So we have now today the topic about quadratic equations solving in one variable with respect to the problems that we have. Okay, we have now solving problems, which is an application of the quadratic equations. So, what is the application of quadratic equations? So, let us have this picture for us to evaluate what is the application of the quadratic equations that we have. So, what you have seen is a cliff diver, which is supposed to be jumping by 64 feet. So, how can we make use of quadratic equations? Have you observed that the fall of the guy from 64 feet above, it is in quadratic form. It is not a linear form because it turns curve as it jumps through the ocean. So, let us have the application of this picture having this problem. So, a problem states that a cliff diver is 64 feet above the surface of the water. So, the formula for calculating the height, having this as from the diver after t seconds is equal to h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 64. So, as you have seen, it is given the formula of the height. So, how long does it take for the diver to hit the surface of the water? So, let us have first equating the formula to 0. Since we equate the formula equal to 0 because our target here is to go with the surface of the water, which is a ground level based on the water surface. So, it is equal to 0. Our height is equal to 0 and we can factoring it out by factoring out 16 or specifically negative 16 so that we can have t squared minus 4. So after we factor out negative 16, we can have 0 be equal to negative 16. So we have t plus 2 multiplied by t minus 2. So, we have to simplify the equations for us to get the time of the interval based on the height equal to 0. So, we have t plus 2 which is equal to 0. And another one is t minus 2 be equal to 0. So, negative 16 would be divided both sides. Since we have 0, it will have equated both sides with 0. So, we can have the value for the first one is t be equal to negative 2. And the other one is t be equal to 2. But here, we don't consider negative values since it is talking about the time. So, we can have the answer, our time, be equal to 2 seconds. So, at the height be equal to 0, and therefore, we can get into the surface of the water where our time be equal to 2 seconds. So, therefore, a cliff diver would reach the water surface or the surface of the water when we reach in 2 seconds. So that is how we can evaluate quadratic equations based on the cliff divers at 64 feet. So another application is when we deal with numbers. It is either a negative number or a positive number. So, when is the case we consider negative and positive? So, let us have the problem about the numbers. So the square of a number minus twice the number is 63. So based on this statement, we can form an equation which is square of a number. So let us suppose that number is x minus the number is minus twice the number is 63. So we can have first letting x be the number. Next one is the square of a number. So we can have x squared minus twice the number which is minus 2x. With the word is, we can have it as the symbol of equal to 63. So, simplifying this equation, we can have a quadratic equation which is with the power of 2, x squared minus 2x minus 63 be equal to 0, which is a standard form of equation. So, what are the factors of 63 for us to find the middle number? So, let us consider 1 and 63. Another factor is 3 and 21. Another factor is we have 7 and 9. So, based on that, we can get the middle number which is 2x based on the factors we have in 7 and 9. So, these are the factors x plus 7 and x minus 9. So, we can see to it that it is a negative 2x when we combine the middle numbers. So, we have equated to 0. Factoring it out and equated to 0, we can have x plus 7 be equal to 0 and x minus 9 be equal to 0. So, x is equal to negative 7 and x is equal to 9. So, since we deal with numbers, we can consider negative numbers and also the positive number. So, for you to check it, you can substitute it to the original equation. So, another point of view is when we deal with a rectangular garden. So, when we deal with a garden, we can have also a quadratic equation. So, let us have this problem. The length of a rectangular garden is 5 feet more than its width. The area of the garden is 176 square feet. So, what are the length and the width of the garden? So, based on the first sentence, we can formulate an equation where L be our length and W would be our width. So, since our area of the garden is given, we can find out the quantities that we have in the length and width of the rectangular garden. So, let us have this formula of the area of the garden, specifically the rectangular garden. So, L times width is equal to the area. So, the width is denoted by W and the length is equal to W plus 5 because of the length of a rectangular garden is 5 feet more than its width. And we have the equation W plus 5. It's because of the word more than. So, when we have the more than word, it means that it is addition, or we sum up the two quantities or expressions, interchanging the two values or variables because of the word than. So, we can have it in equation form. W plus 5, which is actually our length, and W will be remained as our width, be equal to the area, which is 176 square feet. So, we have distribute W squared plus 5W be equal to 176, making it to a standard equation, W squared plus 5W. By subtraction property of equality, we subtract 176 both sides of the equation so that we can obtain the standard equation of the quadratic equation. So, considering again the factors of 176, so we would find the factors that will give us positive 5. So, we have 1 and 176, 2 and 88. Can we give that a positive 5? 4 and 44, 8 and 22. Another one factor is 11 and 16. So, based on the factors of 176, we can have positive 5 when we have 11 and 16, which is 16 minus 11, we can have positive 5. So, we choose the factors 16 and 11. So, we have W minus 11, quantity W plus 16 be equal to 0. So, we can have W minus 11 be equal to 0. W plus 16 be equal to 0 also. And W be equal to 11 by addition property of equality, and W minus is equal to negative 16 by subtracting both sides with 16. So, based on that, we can have only the positive number because it is pertaining to the length and width of the rectangular garden. So, when W is equal to 11, which is our width, our length would be equal to 11 plus 5, which is equal to 16 feet. So, our length be equal to 16 feet and our width would be 11 feet. So, that is the answers for the rectangular garden. So, we can measure our rectangular garden or the area of the rectangular garden based on our quadratic equation. So, let's have another example. So, find two consecutive odd numbers whose product is 23 more than their sum. So, when we have two consecutive odd numbers, so we would let our variable x be equal to the odd numbers. So, consecutive odd numbers, so we would start with x. X be our consecutive odd number. So, odd numbers, it is equal to 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so on. So, considering that, if we have two consecutive odd numbers, it is actually adding the odd numbers by 2. How? Because 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3, 3 plus 2, which is equal to 5, which is a consecutive numbers of odd numbers. So, that is for the equations that we have for the consecutive odd numbers. So, we have it in an equation. Since it is called as the product, so we have to multiply our x, which is the first odd number, and the second odd number, or continuing the second odd number, we have x plus 2. So, we can have two consecutive odd numbers having its product. So, that is equal to 23. Or, we can have x plus 2 quantity plus 23. So, why we need to have x plus 2? Since it is equal to 23 more than their sum. So, when we say more than its sum, so the sum of the two consecutive odd numbers would be added to 23. So, we can have simplifying the equations, x squared plus 2x be equal to 2x plus 25. So, combining like terms. Next to it is we apply the subtraction property of equality so that we can attain all the variables on the left side and all the numbers which is in the right side. So, x squared plus 2x minus 2x be equal to 2x plus 25 minus 2x. So, we can attain x squared be equal to 25. So, making it into standard equation, by subtraction property of equality, we can have x squared minus 25 be equal to 0. So the factors are x plus 5 and x minus 5 equal to 0. And we can have the factors which is x plus 5 be equal to 0 and x minus 5 be equal to 0 also. So we can have x is equal to negative 5 and x, replacing our value of x, so negative 5 plus 2 which is equal to negative 3. So the two consecutive numbers which is negative 5 and also with negative 3 satisfying the conditions. Another factors or another consecutive add numbers is when x is equal to 5, we can have the next consecutive number which is 5 plus 2 which is equal to 7. So the factors are 5 and 7. So there are two answers based on the condition that we have which is equal to 23 more than their sum. So for the last problem that we have is dealing with right triangles. So how if right triangles unite? So when we deal with right triangles, we would actually use Pythagorean theorem. So let's have this Pythagorean theorem based on the figure. It is just c squared be equal to its sides which is denoted by a and b. So c squared be equal to a squared plus b squared. So as what we can see, the sides of a and b is just equal to c when we have the square of all the terms that we have. So let's have the problem. The length of one leg of a right triangle is 7 meters less than the length of the other leg. So there are two legs in a right triangle. The first leg is 7 meters less than the length of the other leg. So we have the first expression that we can attain on the first sentence. The length of the hypotenuse is 13 meters. So it is given that the hypotenuse is 13. So our C be equal to 13. Our first leg, which is A, be equal to 7 meters less than the length of the other leg. So what are the lengths of the legs? So using the Pythagorean theorem, we have A squared plus B squared be equal to C squared. So A is equal to X, which is the length itself. And the other one is B be equal to X minus 7, which is 7 less than the length of the other leg. So if we have the word done, it would interchange the two quantities. And our C be equal to 13, which is the hypotenuse. So let us have that in the equation. X squared plus X minus 7 quantity squared be equal to 13 squared. So simplifying, we have X squared plus X squared minus 14X plus 49 be equal to 169. So X minus 7 is just squared is just equal to X minus 7 multiplied by X minus 7. So applying the FOIL method, and we have the combining like terms. X squared plus X squared is just equal to 2X squared minus 14X, and we can attain minus 120 when we apply the subtraction property of equality, where we subtract both sides by 169. So factoring out 2, we can have 2 quantity x squared minus 7x minus 60 be equal to 0. So factors of 60, we can obtain it. So our target is to get negative 7. So what are the factors of 60 that we can get negative 7? Is it 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20? Another factor is 4 and 15. So, another is 5 and 12. So, based on the factors that we have, we can make use of the factors when it is equal to negative 7. So, we can get negative 7 when we have 5 and 12. So, let us consider the factors 5 and 12. So, 2x plus 5, and another one is x minus 12. So, with that factors, we can have negative 7. So, simplifying it, we have x plus 5 equal to 0. So, 2 would be eliminated when we divided both sides by 2. So, cancel out 2 in the left-hand side, and we have 0 divided 2, which is just equal to 0. So, x plus 5 is equal to 0, and x minus 12 is equal to 0. So, x is equal to negative 5, and another one is if x is equal to 12. So, since we deal with the sides of the right triangles, so it is impossible to have a negative value of sides. So, we eliminate negative 5. So, a be equal to 12, since that is our value of our first leg. So, it is 12 meters. And we can have the second leg, which is satisfying the condition 12 minus 7, which is equal to 5 meters. So, these are the legs of a right triangle. So, that is the end. Thank you for watching the tutorial of 9. Our value of our first leg. So, it is 12 meters. And we can have the second leg, which is satisfying the condition 12 minus 7, which is equal to 5 meters. So, these are the legs of a right triangle. So, that is the end. Thank you for watching the tutorial of 9.